Well, I asked, where's the beef? Let's call this for what this is. Oh my God! They are so hopelessly woke. How dare you? That is the intellectual capital of the left today. Give me a break. You are now watching the Daily Roundup. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Daily Roundup on this Wednesday, July 5th, 2023. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know that today is National Bikini Day? And I really want to say something saucy here, but I'm contractually obligated not to mention female colleagues in accompaniment with swimwear. She is the she-devil with a spatula. She is the Khaleesi of BC. She is Drea Humphrey. Well, there you have it, Drea. What is it for you? One piece or two pieces?
You do it anyways. You had to go there. For now, it's two pieces. We'll see how many more years that lasts.
There you go. And I'm reading your slogan in that area where I'm not supposed to be staring at, of course. Anyway, I'm black and conservative. To President Joe Biden, that means you're not very much of a black woman at all, are you, if you're going conservative?
Oh, right. Yeah, you ain't black. That was, oh my gosh. And actually in the small print, it says, "How else may I offend you today?"
Oh. I love it. And of course, I use the word woman there, Drea Humphrey. How presumptive of me. I mean, we do have a certain Supreme Court justice in the U.S. that can't even define the term woman. Are we still in the Twilight Zone, or what's going on here?
It's so easy to trigger liberals with shirts like this. People, like, when I wear it, they're so confused. But yeah, if you want to trigger a liberal, go to our store, Rebel News Store Plus, or rebelnewsstore.com, and we have lots of fun stuff that you can wear. Actually, you can use my coupon code DREA10 while you're there to save as well. So,
or mine, David10. Which I don't think anyone uses. I don't get any residuals. I check my mailbox every day. There's nothing there.
We just like competing for like no reason. Everybody's like, use my code. But like, we don't get, we just feel good about it when you use our code.
Well, Drea, please, at this point, I think you lay down the ostensible policy reason of what we're trying to do here.
Well, welcome to the Daily Roundup, everybody, where we go over the latest, craziest current events, and you can become a part of the show, which is my favorite part. Those who tune in can do so by going to Rumble or Odyssey, the free speech, platforms, and doing a live chat there. YouTube has demonetized us from live chat. So it's a way that you can donate $5 or more to help support the journalism that we do for the people here. And then we also read your comments. So like I said, you become a part of the show. And this is going to be an interesting show. We've got a good lineup. One other thing I want to talk about, because tickets are almost sold out, and that is at our website, savethechristians.com. If you are not aware, or maybe you thought about it but haven't gotten around to it, you can do live screenings. We're going on tour doing a documentary like it's never been seen before about the persecution of Christians, of course, during lockdowns that happened in Canada. Did you know that we're now at 83 churches that have been burnt or vandalized in Canada since 2021? 83. I mean, I'm sure some of those are not hate, but I would say the majority of them are. You're looking at the screen here right now. So there are the showings. So take a look. It's at savethechristians.com. So it starts off in Alberta, goes to Ontario, and see if there's somewhere near you and join us for the screening. It's going to be, I can't wait to see it. It's going to be very well done and very touching to see everything in one place on what's happened to religious freedom in our country.
And I hear tickets are really going quickly for all those events. So folks, if you have your eyes on one of those events, please book sooner rather than later. And something you said there, Dre, 83 churches. Geez, I'm not keeping up to date with the numbers. I remember off repeating over 60, meaning, 61, 62. Yeah. I didn't know it was as high as 83. And I've always said, going back to 2021, easily the most overlooked, underreported story in Canada was this one. Churches being vandalized, being set on fire, being spray painted with graffiti. If you depended on your news from the mainstream media, you might never know it even happened. And then you had the likes of Gerald Butts, Blackface's best friend, saying, well, yeah, I kind of understand it's wrong, but,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
kind of
my
get
goodness.
it. Oh,
Can you
really?
imagine?
Put any other place of worship in place of church. If these were, Sikh temples, if these were mosques, if these were Jewish places of worship, I can only imagine what the outcry would be. I would bet you, Drea, we would already be in the midst of a royal commission looking to hatred against fill in the blank people.
sure.
But this, it's a collective shrug, and even from those who should know better, saying, I get it, it's sad, but yeah, you know what, it's understandable. No, it's not understandable. And some of these churches, Drea, they were native churches on native land. That were revered. They were community centers. They were places of gathering, regardless of what your religion was. How does that advance the cause of social justice? It was just like in the George Floyd riots in the U.S., Drea. How do Antifa thugs go into a black neighborhood and burn down an independent ma and pa black business? How is that sending a message to the man?
No, exactly. I remember one of the reports we did when the churches first started burning, which happened in my province out here in BC. And we went and we interviewed streeters, people walking by on the reserve. And this couple was biking by, a Caucasian couple. And they said, I think it's justice. And then we interviewed the people on the reserve and they're crying.
Yeah.
The Indigenous people who live there are bawling. My grandparents got married there. So many good memories that they had. They were so sad, let alone the fires. This was out in the Okanagan, and they're setting fires to churches in dry heat, putting them all at risk. None of it makes sense. But yeah, SaveTheChurches.com to find out more about the attacks on Christians. And we are 80% sold out. So
yeah. And so you have natives crying, and you basically have, I presume, white uber woke liberals saying, oh, no, here's why you should be happy about your church being burned to the ground. You know what it reminds me of? 2016, Drea, the Washington Post, hardly a conservative outlet by any stretch of the imagination, they did an exclusive poll to Native Americans only. Hundreds and hundreds. I can't remember the right number, but I do remember the end result of this. And the question was this: do you find the name and the logo of the Washington Redskins offensive? And again, exclusively Native Americans. More than 90% said no, that they actually quite liked it. In fact, I was surprised,
look at that,
Drea,
9 out of 10.
that the Post even published that. Kudos to them, because it certainly goes against their editorial narrative. So it's almost like, again, uber woke white liberals going to Native Americans and saying, what's the matter? Are you too stupid to realize that you're being offended? Well, we'll be offended for you and cancel that. And sure enough, a few years later, it's gone. It took years to come up with a horrible logo and the new nickname of the Washington Commanders. Really? Commanders? What are you commanding? Bending the knee? Surrender?
Yeah.
I mean, is that what you're commanding? Oh, it's just unbelievable. But we're going off on so many tangerines.
I know.
right now.
We could go off. We're almost on to Aunt Jemima next. My goodness.
Yeah, that's right. But I see at the top of the list, Drea, in your neck of the woods, Kamloops RCMP. Ooh, this sounds serious there. Confirming the discovery of a pipe bomb in a residential neighborhood. What's that all about, my friend?
Yeah, it looks like on Tuesday, the media came out and released this. Attending officers found what appeared to be a homemade explosive. And so they went and investigated an RCMP bomb squad. And they confirmed that the device was indeed a pipe bomb. So that's scary. They were able to safely remove the device, and the area has since been reopened to the public. So they had a tip come in about a suspicious looking situation, and they acted on it and got rid of it. But somebody must have been just dropped it in a bag, it looks like.
So, what is this all in regard to, Dre? I mean, without having any evidence, the first thing that leaps to my mind, given the postal code, is the radical environmental movement you have out there. You have some real wackadoodles who are very much prone to violence when it comes to saving trees. Human lives, they don't really care about. But what would be the motive for this pipe bomb in the first place?
You know what? It's way too early to tell. Even they're saying anybody who has any information come forward with it. I mean, you've given one example, but I don't know if it's just the amount of information I'm accessing because of my job, but it just seems like people in general are just angrier. I mean, even in my personal life, just going to Costco one day, I came out recently and this man started swearing at me because it was pouring rain and I stopped to put my hood on. And it's like this huge entrance. He's complaining that I stopped in that, not the entrance, but further out. So he's swearing at me. And before I can register that he's swearing at me, we both look over to these other two men swearing at each other in front of Costco. And I'm like, people seem to be losing it. I hope I'm not right about that. Perhaps we've all experienced some trauma recently. And so you have some, people with screws loose running around and doing things. So I'm glad that they were on it fast, though.
Well, I'll tell you, as the old line goes, sticks and stones. I mean, it's terrible, by the way, what happened to you. I mean, who in the right mind would yell obscenities to a dear soul like you, Drea? But, of course, the line, as always, is, even in speech, advocating, I think, harm or death to an individual or to an identifiable group of individuals, and certainly making a pipe bomb, that crosses the line severely. So it's an ongoing story. I wonder if we'll ever get the truth in this matter, or maybe if the identity politics don't work out. What I'm saying here, Drea, if they discover maybe the pipe bomb belonged to a Freedom Convoy person, you would have bet it's front page news. But maybe if it's a drag queen advocate or something like that, just a pretend. It was just a piece of pipe identifying as a bomb, and nothing to see here, folks. But speaking of drag queens, and again in your neck of the woods, Drea, doesn't support Vancouver drag theater camp. And they drown out the protesters. Oh, that's a shame, because there's much to protest. But then again, where you live, Drea, it really is ground zero for the loony left, is it not?
Oh, well, yes. The left coast is such a beautiful place. But I was actually there, so we have our report where we're going to show you exactly what happened coming out pretty soon. And there's a little backstory to it. I mean, either way, it is true that the sort of counter-protest to a little protest that was happening or planned to happen there would have outnumbered. So I would say there was about 50 counter-protesters, and then the protesters, there was only a few. But the backstory to this is there was so much accusations of the group that was going to come and protest this drag camp, a summer drag camp for kids as young as 7 years old on Granville Island. There was so much, there was accusations from IATSE 118 union saying that there were threats of violence. Of course, I called the VPD and they said they've received no such threats. So my point is the protesters kind of outsmarted them in the sense that they're like, you know what, if they want to do this call to action and have all of these people come out and waste their time, we'll just go to City Hall. And so there was another protest. So you'll see in my report, I cover both events. You won't see that in the state-backed media because they don't know what's going on. And you will see who was intolerant there, of course. I'm sure you could guess which side of the line was intolerant to people.
Give me three guesses and the first two don't count, as the saying goes, Drea. As we've oft discussed, first of all, how did this ever become a thing? I remember clearly the first time I heard of drag queen story time, it was taking place in Kingston. It was 2018, I believe. And it was like so preposterous that I was actually going to go there, buy a ticket, record it, see what's happening. And to our collective shock, it was an immediate sellout. That leads me to the other component of this equation, Drea. What parent in their right mind brings a young elementary school age child to a sexually charged show in which a man is passing himself off as a grotesque caricature of a biological female? Like, really, I'm not trying to be critical. I'm not trying to be comical. I'm just trying to get somebody to connect the dots, because I'm not against drag queens. I mean, if you're at some gay bar at Church and Wellesley in downtown Toronto in the gay village, or any bar for that matter, if you're the Asian majority and that floats your boat, well, go for it. Pay the cover, go in, get entertained. It's just not my shtick. But when you bring children into the equation, it's all about age appropriateness for me, Drea. So you're a mother. Would you in your wildest dreams ever bring any of your children down to a drag queen storytime performance?
No, of course. You know the answer. Everybody watching knows the answer to that. But here's the thing, David. It's not just about the parents bringing their kids here, because that's one thing. That's their parenting choice. I don't agree with it. It's the fact that this camp is federally, municipally, it's funded on all levels by our tax dollars.
Yes.
That's the real issue
Good
here.
point.
So you don't agree with their parenting style. I don't. But why am I paying for gender confusion to be promoted to small children? And that's what's happening, is gender confusion. The advertising for the camp says, something along the lines of, is drag queen for, or that drag queens for everyone. Right now you're looking with the two pink posters was a bisexual man who showed up to protest it as well. And a lot of the times the people from the LGBTQ community that are showing up, there was actually about 3 out of 5 protesters who were from that community protesting it. A lot of the times what they're saying is, if this push from the government, from teachers, from libraries, of this gender confusion was happening when I was young, I would have been transitioned. This is what they believe. They believe that they would, have, had their penis chopped off or their breast chopped off simply because they were gay or bisexual or a feminine boy and things like this. So this is one of the things that they are really identifying as a problem. And that's what I think is the issue. And the other thing I say here is that if your kid starts dressing as a drag queen, or even king, I suppose, now they're doing those too, at the age of 7, and they start doing that in school, what people need to understand is that the schools, especially in BC, and we're seeing across Canada, the teachers are now obligated, basically they are taught to trans-identify your child. If your child is cross-dressing just for fun as a drag, they still will, a lot of them will send them to the counselor. And then they're on this whole path of transitioning, which of course is very confusing for a child. They don't know any better. And it's so colorful. It's so exciting. You get the special community. So this is, in my opinion, it's a gateway. Things like this are a gateway to actually transition and, potentially sterilize, as we've talked about all of these issues at our special website called stopclassroomgrooming.com. Please share that URL, because many people are not seeing the other side of the story. However, the bright side is many are. For example, This is not the first drag camp. This is the first one most people are hearing about it. This theater did one last year. There was one in 2019 at another. So these things, just like those Planned Parenthood porn cards we've reported on that were distributed in Saskatchewan, where everybody is paying attention to this issue now, which is great. It's coming to light. But meanwhile, we're finding out from this story that as far back as in 2015, those same cards were distributed in British Columbia to elementary students. So we're just waking up as parents in a society now, and that's a great thing.
Dre, I think it's very important what you said about gay men and lesbian women coming out, denouncing these kind of events, because they realize this is just not a war on heterosexual biological women. It's also a war against gays and lesbians for the reasons you said. Growing up, that gay boy could be determined by the social engineers, well, obviously, he's a woman trapped in a man's body. Let's get the puberty blockers out. Let's get the genital surgery going. So there are members in that very community that say, whoa, 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 which is no wonder we see the rise of organizations like LGB without the T and Gays Against Groomers, because they get what's going on with this lunatic, radical, trans fringe. There's a real fringe movement for you. Those people who, as far as I'm concerned, should be in a psychiatric unit if we had such things anymore. And, you know, it's odd, Drea. I mean, I was watching the mainstream media coverage of the upcoming, back in June, that was Pride Week, and, you know, the teasers for the report. We reach out to the LGBT community and get them to weigh in on why Pride festivities don't seem so buoyant these days. You know what? I can answer that very succinctly, and it wouldn't be part of the mainstream media reports, Drea. It's this. When you are now going beyond asking for acceptance and tolerance, when you are now demanding affirmation, when you are demanding a double standard when it comes to the rule of law, i.e., going fully naked in a public street in front of children. And if you have something to say about that, you're a transphobe, you're a bigot, you're a hater. What I'm saying is that this radical trans element is going to start a hornet's nest against that whole movement. And you need not look any further than what's happened in recent months south of the border. Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch's stock value, it's down more than $16.5 billion US dollars. Target, that was pushing, you know, transwear for little boys and girls, and bikinis where you could tuck your private parts to pass yourself off as the opposite sex. Their stock value down $10 billion. I maintain this is more than about some offensive merchandise. This is more than being offended by Dylan Mulvaney. This is like a line in the sand where mainstream people are saying enough is enough. Do what you want in the privacy of your own homes, but get your hands off our kids. And if you want to pretend as a man you're a female and vice versa, okay, good for you, but don't expect me to applaud this. I'll tolerate it, I'll accept it, and I'll ignore it. But if I do so, don't call me the hater. That's where I think we're going. So I think these radical trans people are doing that entire community wrong by their incessant demands, Drea.
Well, they are, and they are a small fringe, and that's the sad part. Is like many in the community are going, "What the heck?" You know, many are like, "We fought for equality. We have gay rights now. We can do all of these things. What is this about?" And it's unfortunate to see it. So, and speaking of radical, we have another article on this issue. It's amazing how much news comes out about this, but again, Rebel News, like if you're like, oh, why do we talk about this so much? We promise to give the other side of the story to the people. And this is one of those things. It's in all of the state institutions being pushed on the next generation. And the other side of the story is not being told as much as it should. So we have, we're going to get to some other stuff too, but radical pride activists plot to use noise assault against independent journalists. Now, this is important. I did for the first time bring earplugs because of this tip that came in from Karima Saeed. She's a citizen journalist who, it's kind of funny because, I mean, I don't want to say she's on their side because it's not really about that, but how would you describe Karima? You know, she's not against them. She's not hostile. She goes on her scooter and just captures what they're doing. I think what they don't like about her is that she doesn't clip things. You know, if they're acting a fool, she's going to show the footage of them acting a fool. And so, you know, the movement is always laced with Antifa style thugs. So she shows that. And one of the tactics that they're using here is, if you can read here. And by the way, these are Trudeau funded Canadian AntiHate Network people. So just remember that these are Trudeau funded groups of people, and this is what they're calling for people to do. They want them to prepare to hold the line against their attempts to move against people's attempts to move in closer to an event. So if you're protesting a drag queen story time or like that camp, they say use large banners and flags to create a visual barrier and claim physical space. Use loud music and whistles to disrupt the hate protesters. Verbal harassment.
Which actually can harm your ears, Drea.
Yes.
That is weaponization. As for Karima, I would say she does lean left because she does get on to leftist media outlets. However, I would say that Karima is maybe on the cusp of a come to Jesus moment, realizing that the allies who are standing up for her to practice journalism, for her to practice freedom of speech, for her to go into a hostile area and be there unaccosted, well, guess what? They're all on the right. The lefties either remain silent, like the three monkeys: see no evil, speak no evil, say no evil, or hear no evil, rather. Or they are actually, well, you know what, you're kind of going into an area where you're instigating this. It's like the old days, Drea, where a woman was the victim of a sexual assault, and incredibly questions would come up. Well, were you showing cleavage? How low, how high was your hemline? This kind of garbage, right? That's what they default to. It's unbelievable. I think with Karima, we're seeing a conservative in the making.
Well, yeah, let's show. And you mentioned a very good point about how I would say it's a form of assault when it's a really loud whistle and they're putting it in your ear. Let's show some of her footage of that happening if we have it, and you can just see how ear piercing it is.
She would not like what my mother has to say. Oh, you can't do that here. You can't do that here.
Is that kind of Nazi?
That doesn't really show the severity. I've had, once upon a time, I had one on either ear as the police shamefully looked on, did nothing. I'm telling you, your brain feels like mush. It's almost like a mild concussion, Drea. It is definitely a weapon. And for law enforcement to just stand by and allow that to happen, well, they're as big as part of the problem as that coward Antifa wannabe. You notice I love the full mask, right? What a brave man, right? That he's too ashamed to show his face. Why would that be? Oh, yeah, I forgot. Because he's carrying out a crime. That's why.
Well, and it's also because the Trudeau-funded anti-hate network thugs also call for them to wear masks. They've done that in BC. They say, come out, stand up for trans kids, wear your masks, bring your banners, bring your umbrellas, and all of this stuff. And so they're just giving, they're painting the way for these anarchists. I know that Karima's videographer in another video, he says that he still has ringing in his ear from those loud whistles. And nobody even knows who these people are when they are fully masked, although sometimes I have unmasked them. If you followed my reports, I've tracked them down by their eyes. So I will do it again. If I've got wine on a Saturday night with nothing to do, I will find you.
You're like Batgirl. And Drea, that took place in Ottawa, right?
I think so, yes.
It was in that area, I believe. So when we were covering the trucker convoy, how odd, I didn't see anyone acting like that. In fact, you know what I did see? People picking up litter, right? The streets around Parliament where you couldn't even find a cigarette butt. I noticed that crime, contrary to what you might believe from the liars in the mainstream media, actually went down during the so-called occupation in Ottawa. But there was no harassment, even amongst those people who weren't friendlies, people that would go by and utter a drive-by slur or what have you.
Right.
Nobody chased them down. Nobody put a buzzer or a megahorn in somebody's ear and tried to give them hearing loss damage. So,
Right.
isn't it funny how, like, where's the mainstream media in calling out these real haters, these wannabe pro-radical trans demonstrators?
Well, you raise a good point there too, and I'm going to bring it back to Karima Saeed as well, because she's out there and being treated like this right beside an MPP. I'm forgetting his name, but he's standing there with these people watching them do this. Why is nobody standing up and saying, hey, leave her alone from the crowd? I mean, the Antifa people, we know what to expect from them, but there are other people that just come out to these protests because they think they're, standing against hate, and they're watching this woman be abused. And on the flip side, Karima has covered, freedom protests and stuff like that. And for the most part, she's well received. I have seen the odd person be a little rude to her, but it's never like across the board where everybody there is treating her like crap. There's a lot of people who come out and say, I respect what you do. I know people went to bat for her when she wasn't allowed to get into one of Pierre Poilievre's event. The Conservatives actually came to bat for her, even though they don't agree with her. And then she was eventually allowed in. So I do think she's going to have that come to Jesus moment, whether she wants to admit it or not.
And one last note on this, Drea, and it's this. It seems to be the motto of these hardcore leftist protesters is, if you have nothing to say, then scream it. Because they can never put their arguments into motion in terms of having a debate, a discussion. It's always about drowning out the other side. They are total adherents to cancel culture. So as much as they say love trumps hate, no, it doesn't. They are the haters, and they are trumping any kind of logical discourse in the public square. They're infantile. And like I said, you have nothing to say, shout it. That's their motto. My friend, we're past the halfway mark already. If you can imagine, we have to break for an ad. So folks, stick around. We'll see you on the other side.
No matter what, God will bring us through. And I said, we will not bow down to your gods.
For tickets, showtime details, and to see the trailer, please go to SaveTheChristians.com.
In a world plagued by conformity, where truth is distorted, freedom is a distant memory, and Big Brother is always watching. One man, Winston Smith, looks to break through his bleak existence. Introducing the all-new Rebel Illustrated Classics edition of George Orwell's iconic book, 1984. Now, more than ever, in the age of lockdowns, 15-minute cities, and World Economic Forum globalism, everyone must read 1984. Uncover the hidden depths of this literary classic with our exclusive illustrated edition that brings Orwell's haunting vision to life, reborn with a foreword by Ezra Levant and 30 captivating new illustrations by artist Paul Revouch.
You see that Orwell is not only explaining what might come, but in my opinion, what's already here, even back when he wrote it in 1949, but much more so as we see revealed today, particularly with the last 3 years.
Join the rebellion against conformity. Get your hands on the Rebel Illustrated Classics edition of 1984, now available at buy1984.com.
Did you get a copy yet, Drea, to look at Paul Revouch's amazing illustrations in that reprint of 1984?
I did. I haven't got it yet. I just ordered it, but I'm also rereading too, because I was like, well, Commander Ezra Levant's like, everybody needs to reread, and it's so trippy to reread it now. So you guys grab it and read it, and you're gonna be like, oh my goodness.
100%. I obeyed Ezra's command back in 2021 when he said, even if you read it, reread it. I mentioned this to Tamara yesterday. When I read it originally, I was in high school, 1979. The actual year 1984 had yet to come. What I found the most profound, Drea, was how much I had actually forgotten. Because I loved the novel, but with the passage of decades, you kind of forget some things. And also that really the only thing Orwell got wrong was the time and the place, because 1984, more like 2023 in Canada.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about a Canada that freezes bank accounts for those Canadians that the Liberals don't like who you're donating to, who tap your cell phone and your computer, including those who used to be with law enforcement, to see what they're saying and what they're doing. This is right out of the pages of 1984. So again, if you've read it, folks, time for a refresher. And with those illustrations, wow. I would argue this is the best published version of 1984, just on the merit of the artwork. So
yeah, the way it looks. And I'm getting my teen to read it. She's looking forward to reading it too. So it's just, it's nice to have that visual stimulator. But the main thing that's sticking out to me as I'm going through it again is just how the thoughts being a crime, right? Like that's exactly what we're experiencing now, is you're being penalized in many ways for your thoughts. And
indeed.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think during the pandemic, one of my favorite T-shirt slogans, Drea, was 1984 was never meant to be a user's guide.
Yeah,
That's the world in which we live. But we should move on. Well, my goodness. Here's Trudeau on addiction issues. What do you want to bet he's weighing in yet again on the wrong side of the equation? Let's go to the video and we'll dissect it after Blackface has his say.
And we need to address the overdose crisis by providing, yes, safer supply, but also health and social services, including substance use treatment. Now, we all know ill-informed conservative politicians have been attacking safe and supervised consumption services where many nurses work. But our government knows that health and social needs have grown far more complex, especially owing to the opioid crisis and its relationship with homelessness. And so providing needed healthcare supports is also more complex. Nurses are often on the front lines of saving lives every day, and you know better than anyone that there are no simplistic solutions, just serious work grounded in science and compassion.
Yeah, Dre, I wonder if one of those so-called misinformed conservatives is, I don't know, Premier Danielle Smith. I saw her at a Toronto business event back in March, and she talked about how Alberta is taking a stab at this problem, which is basically tough love. And you know what?
Yeah.
It's working. It's police officers going to addicts and saying, listen, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. The hard way is I'm going to arrest you and you're going to go to a cell. The easier way is enroll in basically, it's like a dormitory system. And these people are literally re-educated how to cook for themselves, how to, clean, how to do their shopping. And you know what? They're getting people clean and sober again, Drea. I think the idea of perpetuating addiction to these horrible, hard drugs, that is the opposite of kindness and compassion.
Well, and he's throwing in the word science there. Like, so as soon as you hear Trudeau say science, you know, it's some form of indoctrination is going on here. What does he mean by that? Because anybody who's worked with people who battle with addictions knows that enabling them is an issue. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, is he saying it's anti-science? That's saying when you enable an addict, that doesn't really end well. And I know, Aaron Gunn, a documentarian out here in BC, has done some really good documentaries, but in one of them, he touches on that, not even touches, he shows that some of these addicts are getting their non-drug of choice and selling it.
Yes.
And it's ending up into the hands of children. So, and then they've got the money to get the drug they really want, the hit they really want, the hit they are addicted to. And so there's that, or they're just doing it on top of it. So I am very, very happy that Danielle Smith is doing it. We have to watch it closely and really, be the bearers of truth on how that plays out compared to, like BC, what we're doing out here. And, when they talk about giving clean drugs, of course, clean drugs are better than hard drugs, but giving clean drugs doesn't stop people from taking the dirty drugs. And actually, while we're at it, I don't know if we can find that article quick, but it's a very sad story, but Jerry Martin in Vancouver has passed away. If you recall, he is the man who started his own sort of hard drug shop, saying that more people need clean drugs. And so he was doing that, and that got shut down pretty quickly. But he just recently passed away, I believe on Friday, from an overdose himself, which is just so sad, because I believe he was trying to be clean, and I know his brother had passed away from the same. So this is a vicious cycle. If you want to help people, you have to give them the tools they need to be helped. Not say, okay, here's your dose, see you tomorrow, and expect all of the other issues that they're facing, whether it be traumas, whether it be co-occurring disorders, mental health issues, to just disappear.
And Dre, I just wonder how far we take it. I mean, if you're an alcoholic and you lost your license because of impaired driving, and you're kind of homebound right now as you're waiting for your trial, will the blackface Liberals put in a program where we deliver hard liquor to your porch? I mean, why not? It's in theory, it's not as bad as some of these unbelievable, debilitating hard drugs that they're handing out. And yeah, BC is the opposite of Alberta, and I fear, Drea, a slice of BC is coming to Toronto. Now that Olivia Chow, the leftist, is the mayor-elect, I think for the next 3 years you're going to see more so-called safe injection sites, including that unsavory element of giving these addicts drugs they don't use, and then they just become pushers and sell them to other people at being funded by the taxpayer. I mean, it's so perverse. And I also see Mayor Chow turning a blind eye to park encampments. I know you've got some real doozies out in BC. I've seen them myself. They're terrifying. Because Olivia's one that doesn't want the man to come down and lay down the law, i.e., making a public park public for everybody, including mothers bringing their children to a playground that isn't full of used syringes. So I think that's our fate. And maybe the silver lining, so as not to be so doom and gloom, is that come 2026, when the next Toronto mayoral election occurs, there'll be one strong right-of-center candidate to emerge, basically with a platform, let's make Toronto great again, because I think we're going down the road of Portland North, if you will.
Well, yeah, I if only the dog won, That would be, it's going to be a bumpy ride, I think, for you guys. Hopefully I'm wrong. I'd like to eat my words on that, but yeah, I think you guys are probably going to go down that path too. We have a super chat. Is it called super chat? No, sorry, a live chat.
Okay.
That's come in through rumble.com. That's one of the places you can be a part of the show, as well as Odyssey. And so Fraser McBurney, familiar name, thanks for always supporting the show and also Rebel News, donates $5. Thank you. Says, how smart are you here? Are 2 questions from a 1895 8th grade final exam. That I couldn't pass it. So I guess, could you? Okay, I know this is getting tricky, man, making us work for it. Give the 9 rules for the use of capital letters. Oh my goodness.
9.
That's the first question. And define verse, stanza, and paragraph. Oh my gosh. So
wow.
I don't know.
Well, as the saying goes, Drea, ladies first.
Oh my gosh, no, man, you're taking me back to school here, and I'm a homeschool mom, and I feel like I should know this, but I
gotta admit, I don't know offhand what the rules are, like to explain them verbally. I can tell you when I'm going to be guest hosting for Ezra tonight on the Ezra Levent show, and I can tell you I just came up with a whopper 4,000-word monologue. I'm sorry, folks, but every word was precious. So, I think when I'm writing, I just instinctually know which which words are capitalized, proper words, of course, names, countries. One I've seen change for the better in recent years, because I never understood this, Drea, was you would see the planets in the solar system, Mars, Mercury, Venus, Pluto, you name it. Well, I don't know if Pluto's a planet anymore, but Earth was commonly spelt with a small e. And I'm going, what? It's the gem of the solar system, and we get the lowercase treatment. So I think they've changed that. It's now a proper name, as it should be, Earth with a capital E. If anyone wants to write and correct me, there you have it. But I don't know.
That kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever noticed when you'll type out on your phone, black people, it will capitalize the black, but if you do white people, it will be a lowercase w.
That is correct. And when it was still publishing, at least the paper format, Now Magazine, a complete leftist rag and racist for reasons I won't go into, they had a 2-page column, Drea, explaining their style guide change of why black is now an uppercase word and white remains lowercase. And I read it twice, and there was so much gobbledygook and jargon. I still don't understand the rationale. I mean, here's what I think we should hope for when it comes to the English language, any language, is consistency. So if it's going to be uppercase B for black, that's fine. I think you should do that for the word white too, or make them both lowercase.
I always have to change it. Yeah. And it's not just them, it's your iPhone. My iPhone does that. But
really?
That's going to be the most racist thing. If you really, really narrowed it down, it's so bad.
Well, it is, and again, I'll say that the one person rolling in his grave right now with this kind of social engineering is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said 50 years ago that, the dream, that judging a person not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character, the idea that we should be colorblind. But that's racist today. And Dre, I'm not kidding.
Colorblind's racist.
Yeah.
And it's so wrong because little kids are colorblind. And you can see that's innocence. That's how we're supposed to be. And they're teaching the kids that it's wrong to be colorblind. You have to understand that this group is oppressed and you're not, and all of this garbage. It's so bad.
Drea, I am not saying this with any hint of jocularity, but if Dr. King Jr. were alive today and he went to some of our wackadoodle woke school boards like Durham District or Halton District or Waterloo, and he were to say that speech, if he were to say that I believe in a colorblind society, they would call the police. They would say, get this hater removed from the podium. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, no, seriously. He would be outcasted. I agree.
Yeah, it's so sad.
Face palming.
So why don't we go from Trudeau talking about drug addiction to, well, I guess we could always cry in our beer with the Liberals, but you know what? Don't order a steak with that beer because he's big on insect food. And it says here, Trudeau's to send insect food firms to 2023 UK Climate Summit. I'm just wondering, Drea, please educate me. Is global warming, if that's what we're going through here, is that good for the cricket population or bad? I mean, I think insects tend to thrive on hot weather. Is that the route Blackface is going down in terms of having insects on the menu? And by the way, he means our menus, not his menu. I mean, when he goes over to London,
of course,
yeah, he's not. Yeah. Him and Klaus Schwab, when they're staying in their $6,000 a night rooms, complete with a butler, folks, you don't think they're chowing down on crickets and mealworms, do you? It's one law for thee, one law for me. But what is all this about? Is this now going to be a Canadian export? Yeah, we have a lot of bugs in the summertime, but
well, we have that.
I would argue any country does.
We have the huge cricket factory. I think we have 2 now out your way, don't we, in Ontario?
In London area, yep.
The AI-run cricket factories. I remember they were saying, oh, it's going to bring so many jobs. And it's like, no, 70% is ran by AI. It's not bringing any jobs. We're just going to be eating bugs. But it says, in partnership with Protein Industries Canada, The National Research Council of Canada Research Assistance Program wants interested enterprises to attend the Future Food Tech Summit in late September. The program will include pitch sessions, and business-to-business meetings with selected top-tier UK small and medium-sized businesses to focus on alternative protein. So they're really inviting people to go out there and learn if your business has any sort of stake in the game with any type of insects being used for consumption. And so, I'd like to be a fly on the wall or a cricket on the wall, I guess. Hold it, David. Was that a David joke? I don't know. But I want to know what they're going to be telling them, because it's going to be pretty interesting.
Oh, Drea, I don't give a rodent's rectum what these sanctimonious wokists are going to be telling one another. Here's what I want to know. I don't know if there's a date there for this summit. I just want to see, I want to go in to these breakout groups and these presentations and more importantly, break time. I want to see what's on the menu. I mean, is it going to be donuts and croissants and salads? Or are we going to, practice what we preach? We're going to have bowls of bugs cooked up and deep fried for the attendees. Because you know what? If you are going to be an advocate of this kind of nightmarish menu, at least practice what you preach. At least pretend you're going along with the program. But, if Blackface is an advocate, it's kind of like his motorcade, Drea. 8 SUVs, typically Suburbans, the extra large size with the 8-cylinder engine, burning fossil fuels, no EVs, no plug-in hybrids here, folks. And also keep the motor running, whether it's hot or cold. We want it completely climate controlled for Justin and his Royal Canadian Mounted Henchmen. So that's what I'm saying. I want to see what's on the menu, because I bet you these are a bunch of bloody hypocrites. Surely this technology exists to serve up bugs at mealtime. So let's see what these elites are actually eating, Drea.
Oh, I'm sure they'll have little taste stations with things like that, but then they'll just leave and go to expensive steakhouses that you and I, the common folk, can't afford. So, but that's a good question. Looks like it's going to be taking place end of September. So.
You know what? I'll see if the big boss man can send me out there. I'll even bring my own bugs. And
will you eat bugs?
You know what? Wouldn't that be a great kind of streeter with those folks? I'll bring a bunch of edible bugs and go, hey, free of charge. What do you choose? And let's see how many of these cats are down on eating bugs. I mean, it's just amazing. Drea, there's going to be a alteration to that famous joke. Excuse me, waiter, there's a fly in my soup. And the waiter says, oh, thanks for pointing that out, sir. That'll be an upcharge. Anyway, why don't we break to our second ad and we'll get into some more juicy topics on the other side.
No matter what, God will bring us through, and I said, we will not bow down to your gods.
For tickets, showtime details, and to see the trailer, please go to SaveTheChristians.com. Oh, hey guys, thanks for watching the live stream, and sorry for interrupting, but I just wanted to pop on to tell you about this incredible sweatshirt that I'm wearing, but also all the other great merchandise that we have available at rebelnewsstore.com. We're adding new stuff all the time, so be sure to keep checking. Even if you shop today, there might be something new tomorrow. And if you are shopping, be sure to use the coupon code Sheila10 for 10% off at checkout. Again, it's rebelnewsstore.com, coupon code Sheila10 for 10% off at checkout.
Drea, I kind of like this story. It's last on our list, but we only have a few minutes left. And it's entitled, COVID is not a magic incantation. Judges toss sex assault firearms cases, warning against using the pandemic as an excuse for delay. Look, the pandemic, I know there's some people out there on a beautiful day alone in their car and they're wearing a face diaper, but At this point, folks, that's a political statement. It has nothing to do with health. We need to get the courts back functioning. I can tell you last month, I had 2 small claims court matters. One was with the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Commission, and the other was with the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. Yes, there'll be follow-up videos to those cases, folks. Spoiler alert, I won both cases. But anyway, I had to reach out and say, because it was going to be via Zoom, and I had to say, I'm sorry, I respectfully request an in-person hearing because I have video evidence to present. And I'm sorry, I just lack the technical capability to do that on a Zoom call. And it's so much easier doing it live. I think, enough is enough with using COVID as an excuse. I go back to, Drea, to when the public sector workers went out on strike. One of the things their union was asking for was a continuation of work at home. No, especially if you're in a job where you're serving the public, like, dispensing passports. You got to work at home because that was an emergency. And the emergency is over. And as it turns out, the evidence suggests we never even had to shut everything down in the first place.
Exactly.
So, let's get back to work. COVID's in the rearview mirror. What say you, my friend?
I love this. I love every moment about it. We had an appliance be shipped from Costco last week. And when we called to ask a question about it, it was like, we are experiencing delays due to COVID-19. I'm like, what? What's going on here? Perhaps they just haven't, changed their message, but they were saying it's going to be longer to take your call because of the pandemic. And I'm like, this is nuts. So I was really happy to see this. It says judges are putting prosecutors on notice that they can't keep using the COVID-19 pandemic as an excuse for excessive delays of criminal cases. So these are criminal cases too. So usually there are families that are waiting for justice when that's happening in a lot of examples. And then you have prosecutors or lawyers using that. It must be so frustrating. So I'm glad to see that this is happening. And it's a sign that, finally they're moving on from that. So.
Yeah, and about time too. And I can't believe the amount of COVID policy holdovers there are. I know in the sporting world here in Hogtown, Drea, if you go to the Sky Dome or if you go to Scotiabank Arena to watch the Leafs or Raptors, do you know these are cash-free facilities? They do not accept cash. And I was speaking to a vendor, and I said, why is it? Well, it's something that came in during COVID. I go, yeah, and according to the calendar, it's July 2023. Yeah, we kind of like it, not dealing with all that grubby, dirty money. I mean, give me a break. So much for... Pardon me, Dre?
Don't they lose money doing that too? Because don't they have to pay every time someone uses card? I could be wrong, but
you're 100% right. They pay a merchant fee, and it can range from a low of I'm going by previous stories I've done on this matter. When you look at, say, Visa or MasterCard, 1.8, 1.9% to maybe as high as 4% for American Express, which is why a lot of retailers
house. And so it's one of the things me and my little guy we're going to once a week, and they do cash only. So I was like, oh, this is no cash. And I was like, this is the last time I'm coming. And I'm so sad. And I haven't been back since. I'm just like, you know what? I don't know. Maybe eventually it's happening, but I will be a rebel as long as possible.
And some talk about rebellious behavior. Drea, 'twas ever thus the saying, cash is king. I think the king is dead, at least with some merchants. And you made a very profound point there that it's to the detriment of their bottom line if they're paying all these extra merchant fees. I guess the credit card companies are happy, eh?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, if enough people complain and say no, maybe they'll change their mind. So.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe they'll just tell you to, what, take a long walk off a short pier. Drea, I see we're just past the hour. Do we have any more live chats by any chance?
Look, I should have been on that. Let's see. No, that's it. That's
okay.
the end of the show.
All right. Well, perfect timing. Okay. Well, my thanks to Olivia and Efren, newly back from France, by the way, where he and the big boss man were filing some fascinating reports about what's really going on over there. You can't trust the mainstream media. We all know that for sure, folks. And of course, thank you to all of you who tuned in, especially those who gave us a live chat. We really appreciate your financial support. Sorry to Fraser, I didn't have all the... Oh, we have one more.
We have one more. Yeah,
Saved
sorry,
by the
I
bell.
just refreshed.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Says, no, this is Donald, the Freedom Protesters super chat. He's sorry, I'm reading our notes. So Donald donates $3. Thank you very much. Says, hi, Rebel. I was jailed for 3 months, Toronto self-detention center because of our friend wax my balls.
Oh, is that...
People
wait a minute.
who haven't followed that story are like, what am I reading? I am under mass conditions. Our friend lied to Toronto police about me. So definitely I'll have to look into that. But I think this is Donald. He's a photographer, and he is saying that he was in jail because of Jonathan Yaniv, now named Jessica Simpson.
Yeah, well, as soon as you said Donald, I figured that was him. Donald's a nice guy. I've told him many times, just be cool, man. Don't go looking for trouble because it's going to find you. And alas and alack, he's back in the cooler for a period of time. I think he served some time regarding some interaction he had with Yaniv out in your neck of the woods at some point, didn't he, Drea?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, again, allegedly, but yes, I'll reach out to you, Donald. I'm sorry that happened to you, and we'll chat more.
Wow. Yeah. Hope you'll get released. I'm sure whatever it is you did, because I think Donald is a pretty harmless kind of guy, Drea. I mean, he strikes me as that. He doesn't strike me as being violent, and I don't think this is a proper use of our jail facilities to put Donald in jail, but I don't know all the details of the story, so I probably shouldn't blather on. But if you do reach out to him, Drea, give me a heads up of what's going on. So there you go. I think that might make history. I think that's our first live chat from the other side of a prison bars, assuming we got the story straight. So,
I think he's out
folks,
now. He's out now.
He is out now.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you know what? I know you're saying, hey, Menzies, are you dumb? Do you think they give prisoners their phones while they're doing time? Well, I can tell you, if you're a woman who identifies as a man, you can bring your dildo into your cell. That's not a sex toy anymore. That's a gender-affirming article, which of course can be weaponized, but hey, different standard for different folks, right? At any event, Drea, thank you so much.
We'll end on that.
I know, gender-affirming articles are us. Thank you again for weighing in. We had a blast. And folks, as always, I will see you tomorrow in this chair, starting at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I think it's with Sheila Gunn-Reid. And in the meantime, as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Everyone, how's it going? Just want to talk to you for just a moment. Here at Rebel News, we understand what it's like to be independent, to try and get by without big handouts from the government.